Thank you to everyone for being here today. We're so happy to be here. I want to start by talking about how we're in a moment where power and leadership are being reshaped in real time. And I'm so excited to be here with this group because we're going to talk about what effective leadership means and who it actually is for at this moment. So let's get into it. Reshma, I want to start with you.
Okay.
You have said we need to stop fixing women and fix the system.
That's right.
Yeah, which I think is a powerful place to start, right? We're trying to get more women into leadership roles, but while we do that, it's important to look at what hasn't worked. Are there philosophies that have failed us, ways of thinking that we should change? Tell us what you think.
Well, I think the biggest thing in women's leadership that has been left out is motherhood. 80% of women at some point will become a mom. And they keep convincing us that we're broken when they're broken. I mean, think about it. Most of us were set up to fail before we even had our cup of coffee. Why is the school day start at 8:30 and pickup is at 3:30 when the workday is 9 to 6, set up to fail? Why do I spend more on my childcare than I do on my mortgage? Why am I constantly offered these false choices, these false binaries between either being a girl boss or a trad wife, when all I want is something in the middle, right? The freedom to figure out what works for me and my family. And so when we think about American motherhood, you know, the fact that it's broken, it's a feature, not a bug. It was designed that way. For 250 years, we have literally been conned. And the way that we're often conned is by judgment. Probably the worst thing you can say to me as a mom is that you're a bad mom. You know, there's a reason why in a true crime podcast where, you know, the story is about a parent killing a child, guess who's like the most viewed viewer of that? Moms. Because we're like, damn, at least I didn't kill my child this morning, like I'm doing something right. But if you look at the history of time and you look at these archetypes, they're all the same. The refrigerator mom, the helicopter mom, the anti-vax mom, the mom who breastfeeds, the gay mom, the tiger mom, right? Today, the wine mom, we're all the same. They humiliate us to take away our power. And once we recognize, right, that if we come together, if we don't fall for those cons, we can get childcare and paid leave. Because oftentimes, we say this at Moms First, like culture eats policy for breakfast every damn day. If you don't value something, if you don't invest in something, if you don't respect in something, then you're not going to invest in the policy choices that make things different. So to me, narrative change, culture change is everything.
Wow, that's really powerful. Thank you. Continuing on that theme of change, Leslie, I want to ask you about women-only leadership training programs. In your experience, what actually works? Should organizations be implementing these? Should they be looking for something that's more inclusive in a general way? What have you seen in your line of work?
So not everyone may agree, but I think we should get rid of them. I do not think, and we've made changes even in our own company on different initiatives, and we just recently opened up what was formerly a Women in Leadership training program as part of development opportunity for everybody in the organization. But if we are asking, historically, you look at cultural change, if you are asking the party that is, you know, underrepresented to go fix the problem themselves. So to the point you just made, if you're asking us to go fix your problems and talk about it amongst yourselves, you cannot affect change. So I absolutely believe that any leadership training program should be inclusive of everyone. There are skills that everyone needs to know. So we talk about historically, you know, soft skills that women have sort of been poo-pooed for that are now actually emerging as the skills that leaders need to lead in today's environment. You need to teach those skills to everybody as well. So I do not think that we are going to solve any problem by putting ourselves in a room and talking about problems together.
It makes a ton of sense. And the idea that women should be the people who have to fix their own problems seems totally antithetical to getting more women in leadership in the first place. We all have to be a part of the solution, right? On that same note, Debbie, Open Table is 50% women. And now that you've achieved that number, which I think we should stop for a second and say, that's incredible, especially for a tech company, right? How are you refocusing your lens to really get more leadership, women in leadership roles and make it so that women can not only learn those skills, but be in those positions of power?
Yeah, we are half women at Open Table, but I think the more or equally interesting fact is that the exec team is also more than half women. The exec team are all working moms, which is a lot. And so your question on how do we get more women up there, first, like, you have to see it to be it. So just the fact that we are who we are. I make it a point, and I think many women on my team make it a point, to be very vocal about, you know, what the life is of a working mom. So I have 2 kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. Yeah, 8:30 a.m. is not a great time when you're trying to get the fucking house out the door.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I'm based in California. East Coast started 3 hours ago.
Yep.
So I'm like on a call, wiping an ass, because, you know, my 4-year-old still doesn't know how to do that. Like trying to like fry some bacon.
Yep.
And like get socks on while I'm talking on a call. So like that's what my morning is, right? And like every day, my husband, God bless his soul, but is in the bathroom very
on the
timely,
toilet, hiding,
summoning his shit while we are doing all this in the house, in the front of the house. Okay, so like that's the morning. It is, you are correct. That was not built for me. But you know what? I'm really fucking good at it.
Yeah.
And that's why I hire women. Because we're really good at like doing what I think is really the impossible. Putting on a sock, frying bacon on a call, right? And then like trying to wipe poo. Like literally those are my mornings. And,
but we
like,
shouldn't be asked to do it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I go to work. And then I go to work.
Right.
Like, that's the morning and then I go to work. So I think it's so important that like we have women in the leadership team, that we are like, we're not like ducks, like just looking placid. It's hard. It's supposed to be hard. And I hate every moment sometimes, but I know that I've spent my entire life working for the privilege of being a mom, of being a CEO, of being a partner to my husband, right? All the things. But like we have to model it. We have to be open about it. And I do think like, right, the flexibility that your workplace can offer you is really key. Yeah, I gotta go at 2:30 for pickup, but I'll sign back on at 6:30 after dinner, right? Like I'll make it work, right? I take calls in my car sometimes because it's the only quiet place in the house. Like in that flexibility, I'm not on camera a lot because like I'm like at soccer, right? And that just has to be what it is. And that's the only way it works for my life. And I think we have to offer that type of flexibility and support to our employees.
Yep. Everyone get a job at Open Table now. Clearly, that's the place to work.
Yeah, I feel like this panel could like change policy. So I feel like we need to figure out when school should start. You guys tell me. We're gonna write an article about a time. We're gonna make it happen. Great. Switching gears slightly, Dara, I want to talk about AI with you.
Oh, they get all the fun stuff. I get AI. Come on now, girl. I was like, well, I have stories too. All right, let's talk about AI.
Listen.
That's what everyone here really wants to hear about, AI. All right, we'll do it. We'll do it.
I'll take a story if you
We'll
got
do
one.
it. We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll work with what we got. You know, we'll work with what we got.
Well, I'll give you one and say, I want to give you a compliment in my question, which is AI is generating a skills transformation, right? And these measurements of success, these older ones, are being deprioritized for creativity and critical thinking. You've called it translating complexity into something human, which I think is just an incredible way to put it. And look, as a journalist, the idea that we're talking about creativity is a wonderful thing, right? So what opportunity does AI present to help women in the workplace? In terms of whether it's being a mom or you know, being in a leadership role, it has to be helpful. Tell us about what you think.
So first of all, every woman in this room should be using AI. AI is here to stay. It's here to stay. It's not going away. It's like, you know, not back in the day when computers showed up, you know, there used to be human computers. Computers are still here. That's how AI is going to be like several years from now, decades from now. AI is here to stay. And I think as women, it actually unlocks a lot of opportunity. there's opportunity for us to be increasingly more productive, so we can not only be more strategic, but have time to clean poop, do whatever else we gotta do, right? AI has the a tremendous opportunity to help us, but it is up to us to lean into those skills. And I think one of the things that makes me a little sad is that I think there's fear around AI. So a lot of the conversations around AI is it gonna take jobs? Is it not gonna take jobs? The reality is AI, jobs are gonna change, but new opportunities are gonna be created. And I wanna make sure that all of us as women are there ready to capture those new opportunities. So we need to be leaning into the skills. And I think as women leaders, the onus is on us to make sure that our teams are trained. So that investment in the teams, making sure that our folks are AI proficient. Everyone should know how to build AI into their workflows. Anyone here have an AI agent they're using? All right, well, I want every hand up. So after we go here, you need to go online and read up about how to build an agent. It's very easy. You can use Claude or ChatGPT to build your very first agent. And my very first agent was like, how to help me be a more curious mother. Yes, because I'm Nigerian. And what that means is, I have a lot of thoughts. No shortage of thoughts. So my daughter comes to me and I got a lot of thoughts. And maybe I need to start asking why. So I built an agent to help me be more curious, right, before I pass judgment. That's an example of how I'm using it at home, but I'm using it in my workplace. I also use the exact same skill at work. How can I be more curious with my teams? Instead of immediately passing judgment, how can I ask why? How can I go deeper? And guess what? The results are that much better. Because when we're curious, we introduce psychological safety. So implementing and adding AI into our workflows, using it as agents, training our teams, because the future is going to be us as leaders, not just managing people, but managing people and AI. Now, one thing I have to say before I get off the AI soapbox, I know y'all are loving it so much, so exciting, is that I'm team human. AI is lifting the floor, but it is human ingenuity and creativity that is going to raise the ceiling. And tastemakers and the creatives are the owners of the future. So it is incredibly important that we continue to hone and protect the skills and the artists.
Reshma, I know we're here to talk about women.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you about men.
Do you want to talk about men? Yep.
I know. Part of that's because you wrote a great piece for Time about the crisis of boys being left behind, right? And we all see this in the headlines. This is part of the news every day. And, we were looking at a recent study that said nearly 2/3 of Gen Z men believe gender equality hurts them. And this part surprised me. Nearly 40% of Gen Z women revealed they felt the same way. So how do you fight for equality in a world where it's not necessarily what the younger generations say that that's what they want?
Yeah, I mean, listen, here's the thing. Like, we do have a crisis of masculinity in this country. It's just a fact. Men are lonelier. They are not going to college at the same rates of women. There's a suicide epidemic. But part of what's happened is there are folks on the far right that have said the reason why you don't got a job, the reason why you're depressed is because you see those women over there? We gave them too much power. And the way to lift you up is I'm gonna pull them down. That is a lie. And so when we talk, because I have to address this, because I believe right now we are living in America through one of the most dangerous times it's ever been to be an American woman, and we just gotta be honest about it.
Girl, you said it.
Okay? We just gotta be honest about it, okay? Our reproductive rights are being taken away. Programs, like, you can't find a women ERG group anymore. And you know what? We needed to gather just to be like, can you believe what they said? Right? To learn AI together. There's something about women coming in community together that has always led to our disenfranchisement and our freedom. So don't let them convince you into thinking that that is a sign of progress. It is them dismantling progress so that we can actually tell all these men that we're doing something for you. And I want to give you an example of this. In 13 states, they have made coding clubs for girls illegal. At the height of Girls Who Code, we had 10,000 Girls Who Code clubs across the country. I taught 760,000 girls to code. I changed the number of women graduating with computer science degrees from 18% to 45%. They didn't like that. So in the name of trying to make it equitable and talking about a meritocracy that does not exist, we have dismantled programs. We have taken off women scientists from the halls of NASA. When in Paris, in Eiffel Tower, they just added 82 scientists next to the 87 men who've been there since 1887. That's what everyone else is doing. So we gotta be really, really, really clear about where we are and where we stand before I talk about men. And now I will talk about men. Okay?
Preach.
So here's the thing. So part of the dismantling of women's progress in America is a strategy to turn men against us. And we need them to win. I don't want to be right, I just want to win. And we are married to a lot. I have 2 sons. We have men in our lives that are on the same page as we are. And they are also suffering. And so to acknowledge that suffering, to have empathy for it, doesn't take anything away from us. Don't fall for the fact that this is a zero-sum game, because it's not. We are all in this together. This is about American families. This is about lifting us all up, not us versus them. And the problem is we're so damn disconnected. You know, when I talk to young women today, they don't even have a friend who's a male. They don't date each other. They don't talk to each other. They don't break bread together. They don't even do other things together, right? And that's a problem. You can't have empathy for somebody. I can't have empathy for what I'm seeing in the streets of Minnesota if I didn't know refugees like me, right? We can't feel for one another. And that is a strategy. The algorithms, the way everything is designed is to make us think, well, it's us versus them. And it's not. And it's hurting us. And so I make every effort that I possibly can, and it's not just because I'm the mother of sons and, you know, God gives you exactly what you can deserve, and he certainly did with me, you know, because they teach me that it's all about love right now. It is all about coming together. And so we have got to find ways to bring men into the conversation and have empathy for one another, or we're just as bad as they are. And I refuse to do it. I refuse to let them demean my humanity anymore.
Leslie, I want to take the idea that Reshma brought up about, you know, equity initiatives being deprioritized in kind of all elements and bring it into the boardroom. You know, it might be clear to some folks in the room, but why is this bad for business, right? Like this corporate commitment crisis, what can that do for business if it's treated the right way?
I mean, we could cite data all day, right? Years and years of data now show that, you know, more diverse boards, leadership teams, et cetera, are better for business. So you can look at all the data, but there are a few things for why it's important. If it's necessary for survival as an organization in this day. So if you are not opening up opportunities for women in your companies, they will leave. If you are, there was a study I read, I want to say it was the World Economic Forum recently, that was talking about companies who are facing, successful companies, not startups, highly successful companies that face sort of downturns or long periods of, you know, momentum is shifting. They will win long term if they have more diverse leadership teams. So there is so much there. It is necessary for survival. It is not a nice to have. There is enough data out there that shows if you want to survive. And that makes complete sense, right? If you're going through a company, it's successful, and then all of a sudden it's going through a rift where something different is happening. If you have the same leadership team trying to make decisions when circumstances around you have changed, you have no diversity of opinion there, right? So it is, if you want to survive as a company, it's a necessity.
Right, you need those voices. Debbie, I want to quote you to you.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Yes, drop
Ready?
some knowledge.
All right. My job is to cultivate a team of people who don't think like me. When I'm not the smartest person in the room and people are challenging my assumptions, that's when we make our best decisions. I think that's a really powerful statement. What in your background has led you to this strategy, and how has it played out in your life, at home and at work?
I think I grew up, you know, I'm the only child of immigrant parents from Taiwan. My parents were very clueless about the American education system. Their English wasn't great. But my mom was really great about advocating for me. And so in middle school, she sent me to a private school for gifted and talented kids. And from then on, you know, I was in a group of students or peer group where people were very, very smart. I always felt like the dumbest person in the room. And each achievement I would get, right, whether that be getting into the college of my choice or getting that first job or, getting that promotion, the narrative in my head was always, well, I'm working really hard and like I'm getting really lucky. But it's not because I'm smart. So I've never felt like I was the smartest in the room from a very young age. And instead of that being like a chink in my armor or a chip on my shoulder, now, as I'm leading a company, I'm realizing like the fact that I have no ego about being the smartest one, because I know I'm not, is a good thing, because I'm really open to and openly accept that there are people who see things that I don't see, who are more talented in ways that I'm not. And the question, right, like the insecure Chinese girl that grew up with immigrant parents, poor, always is like, well, do I belong in this room? And why do they follow me? All these people who I think are way smarter than me, why are they in here with me? And I think like it's taken me I'm 45, it's taken me a really long time to figure out like what, when they interview, like what's your superpower? Like in Silicon Valley, they ask that shit a lot. And so I don't want to use that, but I think what I'm really good at is I'm really good at telling stories. I'm really good at painting a vision. And I'm great at getting people to like believe and follow that vision or that story or me. So that I think my role is I bring people together in service of a greater calling of what, in this case, Open Table is trying to do. I'm not the best at math, like I can't code to save my fucking life. And now I don't need
coding.
to. I've been on that Claude, still not great. But you know what I mean? And that's okay. Like I have to know about these things. I have to practice them, to Dara's point. But it's okay that I'm not best in class, because I know what I'm best in class in. And it's a special thing, and you have to practice. And that's the value add that I bring. And I think once you like know your power, everything else kind of just settles down, right?
Wow, thank you. Dara, my last question for you.
Is this a fun one?
Yeah,
Yay!
It's a fun one. It's a fun. I actually moved one away to end us on a fun one, just for you. So you are proudly a successful working parent. In your mind, what's the most important thing that any company could do to help a caregiver thrive? And that could be a mom, a dad, an aunt, an uncle, anyone. What could they do?
I think to the point that Reshma provided, it's really important to design the system to work for everyone. So when I've actually never shared this publicly, but I don't know, I'm just feeling like, I'm feeling the vibe and the energy. I'm like, you guys, I'm like all my new best friends. Let's just talk about it. Let's gab. The very first time I got pregnant, I was excited because it was something I was looking forward to, something I wanted. But immediately after that excitement, my second feeling was fear. I'm ashamed to say it, but it was fear because I was worried. I said, what's going to happen to my career? I had just started a big new job, and I was genuinely worried. I was like on the track. I was like, I know I'm going to be a CMO. I know I'm going to make it. And I was like, this is going to do well. I thought to myself, they're going to think I'm not serious. They're going to take my team and give it to another team. And then I paused, and I said, if I, who am senior, am feeling this, what about the other women? What about the individual contributors? What about those in middle management? And it made me rethink how systems work. Fortunately, I was at an organization that provides leave and provides care, and I'll never forget walking into my boss's office, and this is why I love that men are on this journey with us, because sponsors, at the end of the day, representation shows you the door. Sponsors open the door. And sometimes, many of the times, the sponsors in my life have been men that have opened the door. White men that have opened the door. And mentors help you walk through it confidently. And I'll never forget walking into Brad's office really nervous to tell him I'm pregnant. And he was so happy for me. He was so excited. And he said, well, let's think of all the things, all the wins we're going to get on the board before you get out, go for maternity leave. And when you come back, all the wins you're going to continue to push so that we have the 100-day plan ready for you when you get back. But just that motivation, that inspiration made me feel confident and comfortable. And so I think as businesses, providing the psychological safety for women and the systems. So it's not enough to just have the systems. We also have to have the psychological safety so that people feel comfortable, and we need to make sure that we see that through every level of the organization. And the more we have women leaders, working parents in senior positions, I think it gives people the space to know I can do it too. It makes them understand I don't have to be afraid. And I love the point you made, I don't have to choose. Because at the end of the day, what is true success as a woman? Freedom of choice to make the decisions that are best for us.
I can't think of a better note to end on than that. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate the inspiration, all the laughs. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.